welcome to this episode of Conversation with a Chef. I'm Jo Ritty and I love sharing with you the conversations I get to have with talented and passionate chefs. It's the backstory, if you will, to the food they're putting up. I begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the lands and airwaves of Naarm, where this conversation was recorded. Land which was never ceded. Land where communities came together to eat seasonally, locally and without exhausting resources. I pay my respects to the elders past and present and to any First Nations people listening today. Now, I recently saw an Instagram post from Robert at Gigi's Gourmet Food where he was heralding truffle season. It got me thinking. I don't know much about truffles, but they do seem to cause a stir in certain circles. Some refer to them as black gold, others as a culinary treasure. I wanted to find out what makes them so special, so I had a chat to Dion at Stonebarn Truffles in WA. He gave me the very well-told backstory to truffle cultivation, which was fascinating. Then I got in touch with some of the lovely chefs I've spoken to in the past to hear how they use truffles. A big thank you to Julian Hills at Narvi, Annie Smithers from Du Fermier in Trentham, Mark Ebbles at Riem in the Yarra Valley, Jordan Clay at Pippi's Kiosk, Jason Stout at Stokehouse, Gabriele Coniglio at Officina Gastronomica Italiana, and Ryan Lynch at Locavore Studio. Unfortunately and embarrassingly, I had some technology challenges and my excellent conversation with Julian was lost. Julian loves truffles and knows a lot about them. He runs a month of truffle dinners in July where each course celebrates a truffle from a different region of Australia, and he talks through the importance of terroir in their aroma and flavour with the lucky diners. This is definitely a dinner to look out for and secure a booking. I really enjoy putting this series together. It's a new concept for me and I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. A big thank you to Robert at Gigi's Gourmet Food, because he was the one that inspired it and he helped me put me in touch with Dion and with a number of other chefs. Thanks so much, Robert. Hi Dion, it's Jo Ritty here. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Good, thank you. Thank you for being available. It's really great to be able to talk to you about truffles.
No problem at all. No problem at all.
So you're in Perth
Yes.
at the moment. I bet it's much nicer weather there than it is in Melbourne.
Almost too nice weather, I'm afraid.
Oh no.
It's been a long, hot summer.
Right.
But, be careful what you wish for, as they say.
Well, that's true. And where your truffles are, that's a wee bit away from Perth. So that's in Manjimup. How do you say that? Manjimup?
Manjimup.
Yeah, Manjimup.
Yep.
What makes Manjimup so good for truffles?
Secret ingredients. I think nobody quite understands, but the truth is, it's been by far and away the most successful truffle growing area in Australia, and it is the newest, as in, sort of the last 25 years. You can only guess that it's probably most similar in terms of climate, which would entail rainfall, sunshine hours, a bit of soil type potentially, when the rain falls, how cold it gets in the winter, as where the Perigord truffle are indigenous to, which is Perigord in France. So just lucky to be close enough to that.
And I saw on your website that you've been there cultivating, what do you say, cultivating truffles?
Yeah, growing, cultivating.
That's right. For 20 years. So 2004, you started, or had you started prior to that?
So we planted the trees a little before that, but yeah, from about 2004 is when in essence, you do a whole lot of things before you plant the host trees that are inoculated or, as it were, infected with the spores of the Perigord truffle.
Wow.
I mean, you should ideally start getting your first few truffles within 5-6 years, but it's not similar to growing apples, let's say, where every tree you plant will give you apples within a certain period of time. With truffle, it's a lot trickier, and not all the trees produce truffle over time.
Right.
I mean, the general rule is unless you mess nature up or the balance that you should have, then once an individual tree starts producing truffle, it should produce truffle every year for the rest of the tree's life. And we have primarily English oaks and home oaks, sort of colloquially known as the French truffle oak. It's an evergreen. The English oaks can live to 100 years and more, and for what it's worth, in our lifetime, the home oaks, the oldest examples in Spain, reputed to be around 1,400 years old.
Goodness.
So,
wow.
all being equal and climate change not having too great an impact, you should get a lot of truffles once the tree starts producing.
And how many truffles per tree?
Say again?
Do you get multiple truffles per tree?
Yes. So what happens, you're really not growing the truffles on a tree per se. What you're aiming at is you're growing a mycelium. So it's the fungal network, which is the actual organism which grows underground. And if you have a lot of trees that are inoculated, then you kind of get ideally you get this carpet effect of this fungal internet network, the wood wide web that we call it, underground. And then the truffle is just the fruiting body that happens once a year. During the winter it ripens. So the natural way would be that the truffle, the fruiting body, grows and ripens and contains the spores, which is how the actual fungus spreads to new trees. In nature, what it would be is that there are a lot of brilliant tricks that have been developed over millions of years. So the fungus is actually controlling the wild boars or the pigs. This is my conclusion, but it's not too hard to put the 2 points together. The Perigord truffle has a hormone, a pheromone called androstenol, which is a mating pheromone in pigs. So it gives off the smell that pigs find very attractive. And the way that the fungus reproduces itself is it smells lovely for the pig. They're particularly enamored of the truffle. So they dig it up, eat it, and then drop the spores, maybe 1 in 1,000. They'll infect another little oak tree in the oak forest, which will have the spores infect the roots, or not infect. That's a negative thing. It's a sort of mutualistic relationship. Both parties, both the mycelium of the fungus and the tree gain, and then the cycle continues. We just do the infection or the mating, as it were, artificially. So we infect the tree roots and then plant the trees and look after them, and you get a much, much better result in terms of how many truffles you can grow.
Gosh, it's very scientific, isn't it? When you're having to reproduce it, I guess, at will rather than just allowing nature to do its thing.
Yeah, it is. But from a farming point of view or from an economic point of view, you want to get the best outcome possible. So if we had 1,000 years, it would be easy.
That's right. And what's your job title? Are you a truffier, or is that the name of the area?
That's a good question, yeah. So the correct word for the truffle orchard is a troupier,
Yeah.
not a trufflery, which is oftentimes misquoted. But yeah, I call myself a simple farmer.
Yeah. How did you get into truffles? What made you go that way?
Right. It was absolutely and purely coincidental. We bought a farm in the area when our kids were toddlers because it has river frontage on two sides and a brook on the third side and surrounded by state forest. And it's quite steep topography, so nobody wanted to buy it and it was a blue gum plantation to make things worse.
Mm.
So nobody wanted to buy a farm like that because it's not a typical orchard or flat area where you can plant a crop or whatever. But that wasn't our intention. So we bought it because it was inexpensive relatively at the time. And we pushed out some of the blue gum stumps that after the blue gums had just been harvested and had to plant something. So we looked at grapes and got good advice from the local grape growers saying too difficult. And then I had a friend who was ex-CSIRO scientist, and he said, "Oh no, this Professor Nick Malachek, who was the doyen of the truffle industry in Australia, why don't you ponder putting in some truffle trees?" And it was a handshake and a glass of wine over a lunch, and the rest was history. He sort of just supplied us with the trees, told us how to prepare the land and plant the trees, etc., etc. And that's how it all came about.
Wow. So.
Through lack of anything better to do, not by great planning.
Oh well, some of the best laid plans, or whatever we say. So Dion, what would be your annual yield of truffles?
So we, as the old movies goes, I can tell you, but I would have to. So it's sort of in the range of, we have 2,000 trees that are mature.
Wow.
We've planted another 1,000 or a bit more. This time just oak trees. We have a mix of the two oak species, the ilex or the home oak, and the English oak, which is a robor, and hazelnuts. But the hazelnuts are much more short-lived, and if it takes 10 years for a tree to start producing and it dies after 20 years, it makes more sense if the oak species are producing equal amounts to plant oaks. So we've planted another 1,000 oaks. But on the 2,000 trees, we get in the range of 1.5 to 2 tons of truffle annually.
Wow. It's a lot.
It's a very high amount. I wouldn't say that that's average. Interestingly enough, the average in Manjimup is literally a factor of 10 more than you would get in France or in Spain with the same number of trees.
Gosh, that's
so in Manjimup, a mature, successful trufflery could get 700 or 800 typically grams per tree in a season. In Europe, it's more like 70 or 80 grams for a successful truffle orchard. So potentially we approach it much more scientifically and look after the trees much more intensely than they do in Europe. But we certainly get much higher yields off the trees than the Europeans do.
And because
in the Manjimup area,
yeah, right. And because it is in that opposite season to Europe, do you export to Europe as well?
Yes, we do. We around about 7% of our truffles that we grow, we export. The nice thing about truffles is it's fairly high value versus the actual transport cost.
Yeah.
So whatever it costs you to produce them and clean them and grade them and pack them for air freighting and get them to Perth Airport, from there, whether you send them to New York or Hong Kong or Tokyo or wherever is similar in cost. So pretty much the world is your market compared to other agricultural things where if you can't sell in the nearest city, it becomes too expensive to ship them elsewhere.
I see. Did it take some convincing the European market because they can be quite traditional because it's...
Well, yeah, I mean, yes and no, because it is out of season. So initially I think there was a bit of a thing, specifically in France, where the cuisine that they used truffles in was winter heavy kind of cooking, and they didn't think that it was something to eat in their summer, which is when our truffles ripen in the southern hemisphere. But I think that quickly changed, and the whole world is more and more aware of truffles and what a treat it is and how it just improves the taste and the mystique of any food, and it doesn't have to be complicated, just scrambled eggs with a bit of truffle shaved over is a fantastic experience. And more people understand also that prices are quoted in kilograms, but you need a truffle the size of a golf ball to feed 8 people on a fantastic meal, and that could cost you $30. So
that's right.
It's not as outrageous as it sounds.
Yeah.
So there's demand everywhere else in the northern hemisphere summer, which we obviously use to export to.
Amazing. How did people... I mean, this is a question that we can't really know, but I wonder how people first discovered truffles, because it's an unusual thing. It's being a fungus and underground.
It's good to eat.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was doing a bit of research a couple of years ago for a talk, and it goes back so far in history that it's certainly not a new thing that's just become fashionable. There are records of Phoenician kings complaining that the truffles that they're receiving from their traders are not of good quality. So, you're talking many thousands of years ago. And obviously they're different truffles, and some would be, the French Perigord truffle is the most expensive and tastiest black truffle. But yeah, I mean, the history goes back a very long way, and they're 100 and more different species of truffle that grow in a mutually beneficial relationship with all kinds of different trees. It's just that the one that we grow is the most enticing and best tasting one. So it's nothing new. In the Middle Ages, there are records of it being banned by the church because it was seen as an aphrodisiac.
Oh.
I don't know if there's any good science to support that. But
it was for the pigs, wasn't it?
I beg your pardon?
It was for the wild boar.
Yes.
But maybe not for people.
It certainly worked for the board, who knows?
Yeah.
I haven't done independent trials.
And that's right. Yeah. You were saying that you love it. I mean, scrambled eggs are the simpler the better. Have you got a particular food memory, a dish that you had with truffle that really stands out for you?
I've only tasted truffle once prior to basically deciding to put in some trees and hoping I'd have an oak forest one day, and that being the worst scenario. And that was when I was backpacking around Europe as a youth. So all I do remember is it tasted pretty good, and I starved for 3 weeks after that because I'd blown my food budget. But beyond that, no real experience. You know, it all has come with the journey of planting the trees, looking after the trees, getting to understand what's good, what's not good, how best to produce the highest quantities. We've sort of developed fertilizers and microbial soil regenerators that we sell commercially, because ultimately it's healthy soil that allows the mycelium to grow. And if your soil is dead without any microbial life or a biome, you're not going to be able to successfully grow the mycelium, and you won't get the fruiting bodies, which are the truffles. So, you know, it's a lot of it is just looking back, because there are no good textbooks that would instruct you on how to do it. And a lot of things that were just coincidental have proven to be very beneficial. Not having, you know, chemicals, either insecticides or herbicides, which tend to kill the soil microbes, or using artificial or chemical fertilizers for the trees. So if you keep it fairly natural and you try and mimic what happens in the forest where they grow naturally, rather than trying to beat nature into submission, you're much more likely to be successful. And that's been our philosophy, and it's proven by far the best way to do it.
And what are the characteristics of a good truffle?
Oh, you know, firstly, you've got to make sure you've got the right truffle, and that's sometimes confusing. Less so here because we don't have much of other species of truffle, but in Europe, especially where they're hunted in the wild, they're truffles that look similar to the Perigord truffle, but are far less. It's a different species, and they're far less tasty. So what characterizes a good truffle is it's got to be fully ripe. So when you slice through it, you tend to get completely black flesh with white venation. So black and white. It's got to be firm, and it's got to be really aromatic. When it's at full ripeness, it smells totally unique. You know, it's a musty, amazing smell that's difficult to describe. And those are the factors. Just firmness, so it's got to be fresh, it's got to be fully ripe, and it's got to be aromatic. And the aroma varies from truffier to truffier, interestingly enough.
Okay.
I didn't believe that in the early days, because I thought it was just like, you know, whatever, and how can it be different if you grow it in a different area? But yeah, people can tell. We've had people who can tell our truffles from truffles that are grown 5 kilometers from our place.
Wow.
In terms of their aroma, yeah.
That's fascinating.
The aroma is important.
Yeah.
But it smells beautiful.
And you use a rather lovely looking, well, I saw a photo of you with a lovely looking Labrador or Retriever.
Yeah, we have Labradors to hunt with. They just, you know, beautiful dogs, and they're easy to train because they're particularly food motivated.
Oh, yes.
Food. I
Yes.
read once that they have a genetic, a gene missing basically, which gives them the feeling of satiety. So, you know, you can chuck a bag of food for a Labrador and they'll eat it all until they vomit, kind of thing. So they love food.
Yes.
as long as they find a truffle, you give them a little schmacko, and then they're on to the next truffle, and they can do that for, ages, half an hour or 45 minutes at a time, and give them a little rest, and then they're right back. So they're the easiest to train and just lovely dogs to keep.
Yes. So when should we expect to see truffles on menus and in the market?
Usually at the beginning of June, the first harvest, or the first properly ripe truffles become available. It's also good for listeners to understand that the truffles, the supply isn't linear through the winter, June, July, August. It starts off slowly, and then in the middle of that 3-month period, midwinter, there's usually a peak in supply because there are many more ripe truffles at that point, and then towards the end of winter, the supply tapers off. So you're more likely to be able to, get truffle closer to the center of winter, or if prices vary, they'll be cheaper in that middle of the bell graph. But at the beginning of June is when they start becoming available in the Southern Hemisphere.
Great. Well, thank you, because you've given me a really great introduction to my series, and then I'm going to chat to a few chefs who use truffles and hear how they like to use them. And I think that they're such a magical thing, as you say, and quite people have a lot of curiosity about truffles. So it's been really great to hear a little bit more of the backstory.
It's a great pleasure, Jo. They're intriguing, mystical things.
They are.
And they're good for the trees, and the trees benefit from having them, and they benefit from the trees. So it's there's no downside, and they taste delicious. It has to be on try them before you die bucket list.
Great. Well, thank you very much, and please go back and enjoy your beautiful weather.
Will do. Lovely chatting to you, Jo.
Thanks for your time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Conversation with a Chef with Dion Ranger at Stonebarn Truffles. If you like what you heard, you can check out all the goodness on Instagram at Stonebarn Truffles, all one word. There are some very cute truffle hunting dog photos, as well as some very good looking truffles on there. If you'd like to hear more stories from other chefs, I'm on Instagram at Conversation with a Chef. The rest of the series will come on straight after this, with my various chats to the chefs about how they use truffles. You can also read these chats and become a subscriber at www.conversationwithachef.com. Please tell a friend about the conversations. And of course, you can follow me on Apple and Spotify podcasts. Once again, thanks for listening. Have a great day and bon appetit.